We're back for another Esports Weekly Roundtable, and this week, we're talking about Super Smash Bros. So joining us on the show, we have pro player, commentator, analyst, all-around good guy, Mike Ross, who doesn't think he's an analyst, apparently.
Thank you for the proper introduction. Appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. And we also have Daniel Lee as well from Melee and On Me, who's been also a commentator, analyst, player, done pretty much everything for Smash. So how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome. And of course, like I said, we're here to talk about Smash because it is one of the biggest esports on the scene. But even in saying that, there's a lot of weird implications. I mean, I remember watching EVO a couple of years ago when Korean players, quote unquote, invaded, and everyone joked, FGC is esports now.
You know our pain. Yes. There's a ton of truth to that.
And we'll actually get to that. But in a weird sort of way, Smash right now is going through something that's very parallel. It has an explosion of growth from a couple of years ago and has a little bit of trouble finding its place in the fighting game scene right now. So my first question to you guys right off the bat is, how would you describe the current relationship between the Smash scene and the FGC as a whole right now?
So I would say there's a sense of respect between the two communities. It's very easy to target who's a Smasher and who is more part of the fighting game scene. I'd say it's improved a lot from the past few years where Smash was seen as this kiddie party game to now I think we see a respect to all communities. I think people see the mind games, the mechanics, and the amount of practice that it takes to get good at all these games. And so I would say there's a sense of respect, but I wouldn't really say we're fully integrated either.
Yeah, and there's also not just, Smash 2D FGC, but also Smash 2D gaming community as a whole, because I also remember way back in the MLG days, you guys weren't even streamed. And like how much has it changed since then to now?
It's been crazy. Sometimes I wake up and I wonder, is this really happening? There's a...
I think we've all had that moment, actually.
Because just 3 years ago, basement tournaments were the norm, and all of a sudden we're getting these big venues, $10,000 prize pods, whereas 3 years ago, $100 was pretty good. And so it's just amazing just how much we're increasing in size. 2 years ago, I believe the record was about 700 people. EVO had 1,900 people for Melee, and I think about like 2,000 for Smash for Wii U. So it's really exciting to be a part of right now.
But Mike, then I throw that question to you, as someone who kind of comes from the other scenes within the fighting game community. What has been their response to the Super Smash Bros. Scene in general? How have they received it?
So I think, it kind of goes back a couple of years, like when we had Smash at EVO back in 2005. And a lot of the community, it was the first time the FGC got to see this other world. You guys had been building up your scene. We didn't know exactly how big that particular scene got. And when you guys were involved with us, it was kind of treated as, you were sectioned off into your own little world. We're trying to bring two communities together, but what ended up happening is we were still separated. And I think what has happened with time going on, we've seen how Melee has your guys' scene is ridiculous. You guys come out in full support. You guys have Melee, you guys have Smash 4, and you guys are bringing like about 2,000 people for each game. Yeah. And there's like little to no crossover. Yeah. And FGC, I call it FGC, but like all of us that are still going to the EVO events and playing this stuff, we see that and we fully respect it.
Yeah.
However, no disrespect, but I still feel like even though both parties look at each other and we kind of give that nod from across the lunchroom, like, yeah, we fought before, but I think we respect each other now. I think that's the position where we're at, where we respect them fully, we accept them, and we have no problem with us sharing, venue space.
What's so funny to me, though, is someone who kind of comes from the esports community that's outside of fighting games. This is very similar to what I heard there too. FGC, no, we're not esports. We're not. We're different. We're our own special cookie. And I liked that. I respected the effort and the drive by everyone that was within that to keep it independent and keep it feeling very fresh and unique as time went along. And it seems like there's a lot of parallels to the way that the FGC kind of views Smash now. So I guess where did this kind of core animosity come from during the early stages of what you were talking about when Smash was trying to get acceptance?
Was that
to me again? Both of you guys.
So I'll start off. I think the age demographics for Street Fighter, people that have come in through the arcade days of the 90s, they're used to the arcade sticks, they're used to going to the arcades, grinding out and fighting with each other. Whereas the generation of Smashers that are here now that play the game, they're on the consoles, they're playing at home, so they're not going to the arcade. So fundamentally, from the get-go, the cultures are very different.
So I'm actually going to be a bit controversial here and say something that's actually been brought up to me. Mike knows exactly what I'm about to say.
Yes.
You mentioned it as a age difference. I've actually heard it described as a socioeconomic difference, as people that grew up playing arcade games and feeding quarters into arcade machines versus the people who come from Smash who grew up with consoles and playing Nintendos at home.
Well,
Glasses are off.
I'm glad you brought this up.
Okay.
I think one thing that comes from, at least my group of people that I was playing with, when we would go to the arcade, obviously, we had to spend our quarters, and back then, sometimes all you would go to the arcade with is maybe 50 cents because that's just what you had, right? I just remember, sometimes you'd be in lunch, you'll look at this, I don't know, a snack, it might cost 75 cents, you could either buy that and eat, or save that and go to the arcade. And everybody else that you're playing against most likely did the same thing since we were all around the same age during those times in the arcade era. And when you beat somebody, you didn't just beat them, now they can't eat. Because they're going to get salty, they're going to come back, and they're going to want to keep playing. This isn't even tournament, but you're getting ready for tournament matches. These are casual matches. Then the Smash community comes in, and they don't have casual matches. They have something else. What is the
They're called friendlies.
Friendlies.
Yeah.
Friendlies. There are no friendlies in the FGC. Let's just be clear with that. So I just think it's just interesting though. It's like we did see that though. It's like no disrespect, obviously, but it's just we saw a different community and we looked at them and we just didn't see any similarities. We didn't realize how similar we were.
Right. So what has helped you to kind of bridge that gap then? You mentioned before, Daniel, that there's been greater acceptance recently that Smash is basically being seen as that cool brother now, whereas it was kind of the ugly redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, and then was this an easy, was this a short transition, kind of like let's all watch this after school special together, or has it taken time? Has it taken the long route?
I think it's been pretty long, but I think tournament organizers began to integrate Smash from the FGC, and some Smash series would also include the FGC games, and so it was a very slow transition, but I think as crossover happened with top 8s being on the final day, this gave the opportunity for FGC to witness what Smash was about. This gave a lot of Smashers exposure to what the FGC games were like, and so I think that's where a lot of the culture began to mix.
Absolutely. I mean, when you guys did that drive to get Smash at EVO, I know for a fact so many people were kind of laughing about it in the FGC at least. It's like, oh man, Smash is back at EVO, kind of thing. And then what happened was, because of, I guess you could say, the overall ignorance of just having one kind of stereotype in your head, and you're thinking, oh no, we're Smashers, get that out of here, right? And then you see that top 8 at EVO. What do you see? You cannot deny the passion. You cannot deny the level of competition, because you don't have to play the game, but you know what they're doing is sick. Yeah. You know they're doing some sick stuff. So just seeing that kind of stuff and then hearing later, like, oh, Alex Bailey, CEO, we're going to have Smash, right?
Yeah.
And what does the FGC say? Good. That's good. Yeah, we saw them before. It's kind of sick stuff to see. But just seeing you guys involved at our events has definitely helped the FGC. Warm up.
So generally, though, has there ever been a divide like this in the FGC before? Is there precedence for a new title trying to kind of come up insurgently like this one has? Or has every other title kind of been joining organically over the past?
I would say from the get-go, since there wasn't, yes, there was a game specifically where everybody played. Like, for example, back then, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was always the final game. It had, the most amount of entrants. However, even though people may not have liked to watch some of the other games, they always respected all of them for the most part. CVS 2, Third Strike, Super Turbo, Tekken Tag, or whatever game was there, they all respected it. It was really just Smash that kind of rubbed people wrong for a while. But that notion, it's completely gone. Okay, except for you, the diehards. There's always the diehards.
Yeah.
So then I kind of ask the other side of that question to you, Daniel. Then, when the Smash scene was developing, did it ever try to compare itself to the rest of FGC? Did it compare itself to different esports, or was it really just this dedicated group of people that just really wanted to see a game succeed?
I think there was just raw passion, right? I think there were a certain niche of people that wanted to see the respect given to Smash as FGC games were, because there's mind games, there's footsies, there's many aspects that are very similar to a fighting game, although there's some core mechanics that are very different. But I think for the most part, we thought, well, as long as we love our game, we're just going to do the best with what we can in terms of tournaments, promotion, content, we just didn't really care about what other people thought. We just kind of ran with our game. And if people respected what we did, then we would, tag along with them.
Absolutely. So what do you think the two scenes can learn from each other still at this point? So in what ways can they actually help each other start to grow and work together?
I can answer that. Yeah. So even just, I think the FGC, when they saw the amount of effort that Smash is pouring in, I think they looked at themselves and say, like, hey, like, look at how passionate the Smashers are. They don't always have the nicest prize pots. They bring in their own heavy CRTs. They bring in equipment. They'll be playing on the hotel room floor. Like, they just love their game. And I think it brings a reality check that sometimes, like, we have to go back to, why do we play this game? Do we actually love the game? And I think we challenged FGC and their intentions to why they play the game fundamentally. Now, for the Smash scenes, a lot of the TOs, the Evo TOs, Jabali, Hado,
Rick.
they actually mentor a lot of the TOs in the Smash community because they've been more established in creating these larger events. We actually, piggyback off of them for help. We get advice and they mentor us. So there's a lot of crossover and a lot of help happening between the communities already.
Cool. And we've seen the communities going out to help themselves and each other's. Let's talk also about the game makers, because Evo has a lot of support from Capcom. There's been support from Warner Brothers in the past.
I think Daniel already left.
You know where this is going. You know where this is going.
Oh, don't do it,
it's been rough in the past. Is it getting better? Is support from Nintendo getting better?
Okay. So to give context, in 2013, we got ourselves into the Evo Drive after successfully donating like almost $100,000 to get in. A couple days before, we had this like overnight fiasco where Nintendo just basically said, you cannot stream this game.
Yeah.
And it was just a mix-up within their company. And I think over the past 2 years especially, just seeing the documentary come out, Evo 2013, and these large groups of people that just really love the game, it caught Nintendo's attention to say, maybe we're a little bit behind on this. Maybe esports, maybe these competitions are something we need to invest more money in. So there are Nintendo representatives that are, partnering with these larger tournaments, and they want to support. They want to understand what this whole competitive edge is about, and it's all new to them. So they're still learning, but they're trying to learn on why people play their games so much.
It's like, why are you still playing GameCubes?
What about on the other side then, Mike? How have other developers come in and helped out with big fighting game community events?
Well, companies like Capcom, Microsoft have come in to help Killer Instinct, helping Street Fighter. They want to come in. They see that there's a scene now. They see that people come out, that they want to play this game, and they want to win a little bit more than $100, for getting first place. Like, we understand.
Yeah.
By the way, $100 is still a lot. That's still a good. But yeah, like a lot of these game developers are coming in, and they're adding huge pot bonuses to their tournaments. I think Mortal Kombat, they're doing a season, another one with ESL, and there's like $50,000 prize pools coming out. And what does that naturally do? People that play this game at a competitive level get rewarded. And it shows that the developer's interested, and therefore the players even love the companies even more. So it's just a good relationship now.
Sure. Yeah.
They're listening to the audience.
So, all right. Is there like one pivotal thing that Nintendo can learn from Capcom going forward?
If anything, they actually, I don't know what the relationship is like with you guys and Nintendo, but if there's one thing they need to do, they have to listen to their people. Yeah. They have to listen to the people that are actually on the ground floor, that have been doing these events for, 15 years?
Yeah.
Because they actually might know better.
We've determined now, over the course of this discussion, that Smash is officially FGC. Thank you very much for bringing on that proclamation. You two have done it. Congratulations.
You know how many people are going to be mad at this?
I can't wait for Twitter after this. But you two are both sitting on the stage of Esports Weekly, which is a bigger discussion. Is FGC Esports yet?
So, that raises a very good question. And right now, millions and millions of people are waiting to see how I answer this.
All right.
So this is going to be very good. But we just have to accept the fact. Yes, we are esports. Now, when did this happen? Well, I can actually answer that question. And for the longest time, Daniel and I had a discussion. We were talking about it. We said, well, what? Are we esports? We were actually having this discussion outside, so that's when we determined that we're esports. But yeah, like, it's funny because, being here a part of Esports Weekly is like an awesome opportunity. Yeah. Very happy to be here. But we're like, well, what got us recognized as esports? And it was the exact moment when Americans stopped winning in our games, in our respective games. You notice when Justin Wong was dominating everything in Marvel, he was winning roughly, 70, $100 a major, rough estimate. Then, once we started to get, let's say, Daigo and Infiltration consistently winning, you know what we did? We gave him a car.
That's esports.
That's esports.
That is actually the root, the origin of esports.
I'm telling you.
Like
if you go back to 2012, I mean, we did the SF25 series. First place got a car. First place got like $50,000. Infiltration won all of it. And I guess that made us officially esports. Now people are winning big money. That's the largest prize that the FGC had ever seen up to that point. Before that, we could probably say maybe $5,000, in prizes maybe. And here he goes winning $50,000 in a car.
So many people are hung up on the word. And that's what just doesn't make sense to me, to be honest. We were talking about this before, but like, to me, esports is competitive gaming at its most purest, right? I don't care what term you give it. I don't care what you call it. And inherently, FGC is part of whatever we want to call this.
Exactly.
It is a huge portion of it, as a matter of fact.
It's competitive. Obviously, now there's major teams involved. Like, we're as esports as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think so, too? Even for Smash?
I think so. I mean, we have a lot of the big teams that are known for League of Legends, Evil Geniuses, Team Solo Mid, Cloud9. They all have sponsored Smash players. I'm probably missing a few. We're having regular $10,000 prize pots every week. HGC had an event. Smash Summit, which normally does Dota with Beyond the Summit, is doing an event coming up. So I think we're pretty esports.
So when you do give away a car, it's going to be GameCube Purple, right? Like.
Yes.
Yes.
So most modern esports, you want to call it that, are generally games that have come out within the last few years. Melee is an exception to this. We were talking about developer support before, but it's especially unique when you talk about Melee, a game that came out for the GameCube. It's not like you're patching it every week. It's not like you're changing characters or addressing balance. Do you think that has helped the scene grow? Do you think it's a detriment to it?
Well, there's pros and cons of patching, right? Because when you patch too liberally, you don't really get the intricate mechanics that people discover through just playing the game constantly over and over again. As a matter of fact, just a couple weeks ago, people found a new physics mechanic to Melee called V canceling, which reduces momentum. This is just completely new.
You're still finding stuff?
Yeah, we're still finding stuff to this day.
15 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Nobody knew about it. Somebody went into the hard mechanics of the game and discovered the physics engine that allows for this mechanic. And so there's pros and cons. I know that a lot more games are more comfortable with patching. The MOBAs, even Street Fighter has a once-a-year patch, I call it, even though it's a new game. Right. And people have complained about the meta getting stale. There's a lot of characters that are considered overpowered. But if you look at the top 32 of every big tournament, there's at least half the cast that's being represented. And so I think it's still really healthy.
And that's really unique because you just don't see that kind of natural balance in games nowadays. So I throw that onto the rest of the FGC then. Do you wish there would be less developer interference in the form of patching, balance, etc.?
It's one of those questions that I've given a lot of thought about. And I still, to this day, I don't know how I feel about it. Because it is awesome, specifically for me. Let's say you take vanilla Street Fighter 4. I started out, it was 2008 in arcade release, 2009 on consoles. The character that I was playing was arguably the worst character in the game. And then a year later, there's balance changes that are introduced. And guess what? Now I'm getting top 8 at EVO. Am I complaining? Hell no. But what happens if they left it the same? Maybe we would have had a chance where we might have discovered some new tech in there, like you guys are still discovering, but we simply just don't know. But to be fair, I do like the fact that we do constantly get updates. I'm also a Dota 2 player, and I do like the fact that they're constantly patching that game. Because we all know if it was still left at 5.84C, we'd be having some problems. Ricky Death Ward, you guys remember. Anyway, but so I do like the fact that, at least with Capcom, they're constantly patching the game. However, there are other developers such as NetherRealms when they do Mortal Kombat, and I know some people are not happy at how frequent they patch that. They might patch the game like a few days before a tournament or something like that, and it might hurt some of the players out there who specialize in specific characters. So I just think like if you're a fighting game developer and you are going to patch your game, you have to pay attention to the tournament season nowadays and patch around that.
Yeah, and you actually have FGC has had 2 games 15 years old that have gotten essentially patches. You've had Ishi Remix, and also Third Strike got a little bit of some spit shine on it as well.
Right,
So,
and I was just gonna, and unfortunately, you know, those games did not last as long as their original predecessors.
Sure. So what do we think is actually causing the spike in popularity for Smash nowadays? Is it something inherent to the game itself? Is it just the constant undying support of the community? Because you guys had a quote-unquote golden age about a decade ago or so, and it's come back bigger than ever now.
I mean, there's always been a love. I think there was a downpour in about 08 or 09 when Super Smash Bros. Brawl came out. There was a split in the community at that point, and then Melee and Brawl built into their own separate communities. But I would say the biggest changes were the Evo Smash Drive giving Melee a huge forefront of publicity, and then the Smash documentary, which has like millions of views on YouTube. I would say those are the two biggest catalysts to why Smash, both Melee and Wii U, are so big as it is now.
So, Mike, when did you start paying attention to Smash? When did it hit your radar then? Was it right as the game came out? Or is it you've only really become aware of it truly of the scene since it started exploding onto the scene a couple years ago?
I actually didn't start really paying attention to Smash until I got hired by Twitch not too long ago, and because I sit right next to the Crimson Blur, and I'm always talking to Bobby Scar, like everybody there plays Smash, so naturally, I'm just seeing it, I'm starting to talk to them more often, and now they're kind of educating me on some stuff. I saw something crazy the other day where like a dude was controlling ice climbers and looked at the clock and jumped onto a cloud and like was controlling both. You know what clip I'm talking about? Like I'm starting to understand that, and stuff is kind of sick. So I am respecting Smash a little more.
Okay. I like that. So we had a few questions that came in from the community as well, and I just want to cover off on these real quick. They're not necessarily Smash exclusive here, because the first one comes in from @GodSasquatch. Is Marvel dead?
Oh God.
I think
the community. Okay, now I have to address the community.
That's right.
Is Marvel dead? Well, I mean,
decreasing in popularity at EVO, decreasing overall in player pool size.
Yes, it's on life support right now.
Okay.
Why that is? I mean, I think it's kind of known that there is no known patches coming out, you know, anything to help revitalize the game. So it's up to the players that have currently been winning. But I think one of the problems is that some of the guys, if they stayed active, here's why I think maybe Marvel may not die fully, is you look at the top guys, Filipino Champ, Justin Wong, Chris G. These are all players who were undoubtedly the best. They were just ridiculous. Now, all these guys are working. So they don't have the same amount of time to dedicate into the game. And sure enough, this allows for new players that I don't want to say new players, but players that dedicated themselves to the game to shine. You have Kane Blue River winning EVO. He didn't enter SER for whatever reasons. But yeah, so Marvel it'll never die. Marvel will never die. We know that. Marvel 2 will come back before Marvel's dead. So to answer that question, Marvel will never die.
Okay, so now this is a question to both of you. This comes in from James Railman on Twitter. He said, how do you see the fighting game community growing while maintaining independence and not oversaturating the scene right now? There are a whole heck of a lot of events that you can tune in and watch all the time for the FGC.
This is true. Can you repeat that question one more time, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. How do you see the FGC growing while maintaining independence, maybe from the rest of esports, but not making sure that they're just oversaturating with all the fighter content?
Yeah, I mean, part of the oversaturation, it depends. I mean, what do you consider being oversaturated? Is it the fact that there's so many events going on? I mean, there are a lot of events, but are all the events necessarily like the big ones? Or are they, I don't want to say are they worth watching, because what determines that is now people just look, well, who's going to this event? Who's competing in that? That's how they determine whether or not something's worth watching. I don't think that's something we have to worry about. Maintaining our individual stance, it's just something we've always been. I mean, we're going to continue moving at the pace that we started with, you know, back in 2000, or sorry, long before 2000, before I was ever involved in the FGC. We have such a unique style and a unique flair that I don't think we ever have to worry about us losing that core soul in the FGC.
And what about on the Smash side of things? How do you keep growing the scene? Now it seems like you said, every day you wake up, you're like, oh my God, there's another huge prize pool. Yeah. There's another massive event.
The calendar is just all over the place.
Right.
Like something every weekend.
You mentioned before organizations like Beyond the Summit now putting on Smash Summits, and that's a huge event that's coming up soon.
DreamHack.
So where do you go from here?
Well, so there's a lot of events coming, and that is one of the biggest struggles that the community is wondering about is how do we maintain the grassroots identity of Smash that has driven the community for the past 13 years with all of a sudden we have all these outside companies that had like a kind of an interest in Smash, but now they see an opportunity that Smash is, good enough that it could be promoted in these events. And so there's this clash that is constantly happening. Are we going to quote unquote esports with, and by esports I mean to corporate, to business, to quote unquote professional, and are we losing that grassroots opportunity? And I think the way we answer that is we take every decision case by case and make smart, good decisions. Does a corporation that comes to try to partner with us, does it make sense for the community to join? Sure. And the answer sometimes may be no. Even if they offer a giant prize pot, the best interest of the community may not align with that. So it's making key decisions at every turn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, you pretty much nailed it like 1,000%, because I think one of the other issues is people will get too caught up on what is like going esports. Like what does it mean? When does it stop? Like, do you guys want to continue playing for $35 prize pools, or something like that? I mean, or do you want to go, let's say, esports and maybe accept a sponsor that wants to get involved with the FGC and maybe add to the overall value and production and stuff like that? So I don't think that is like swaying away from what the FGC started as.
Sure.
And to give an example, if you go back to 09 or 08, we were a little grunge in our language, especially on commentary, and some of the figureheads said, like, we need to clean this up. And a lot of people complain, well, we're our own community, like, screw professionalism. But I think the decisions we made like a couple of years ago to be more progressive, to be more inclusive, to take out hate speech has improved us greatly. So sometimes we do have to compromise and make good decisions on our end to help better and move ourselves forward.
Yeah, I mean, every scene has had to do this in some capacity as they've gotten popular, right? We have to strike the balance between, okay, we got to become a little bit more professional.
Exactly.
We need to attract money. We need to attract sponsors and interest from businesses. But then you don't want to lose the core of what made it so special to begin with. So our last question in from Twitter, we had at Jay Schneeweiss, who said, what is the difference between skill sets required for Melee versus Street Fighter right now? So we can get this, we could probably talk for like 3 hours on the nitty gritty, but kind of at a high level.
Can I kind of set you up? Because
please go ahead. Go for it. If you want to toss me the lob.
So at Twitch, Mike Ross plays with an ex-top player, Bobby Scar.
Oh wait, I don't like the way you're setting this up. I actually don't like the way you're setting this up.
No, what I mean is that, but Bobby took a hiatus from Melee to learn the mechanics of Street Fighter, and I think Mike has taken him under his wing. So maybe you have some insight in the differences.
Okay, so this is where I get crucified, but I'm going to keep it real. Yeah. And what it is obviously both games very, very difficult to master, right? But the question that I think he's probably asking is, which one is more difficult?
I'm not asking. It's different. Both games test different things.
Then I don't need to answer that.
Oh. Okay, so here's where I'm setting you up, right? Because I think, a Melee player is going to really focus on mechanics, right?
Yes, yeah.
And, concepts like stage control or footsies become second nature in the game because you can get away with just playing fast and getting to mid to high level. I would say you can even get top 32 at a national just being really technical and having little concept of fundamentals of competitive gaming.
Are you talking about in Melee?
In Melee especially. Okay. And like you can get really far just by being able to execute properly.
Sure. But, I mean, to draw the comparison for people who may not be so familiar with the fighting game community, you have this in almost any genre, right? If you're looking at MOBAs, you have a very hardcore, individually demanding game that is Dota 2. You have a very less mechanically demanding game in Heroes of the Storm, but it requires, I would even argue, maybe a greater degree of coordination and just general positioning and team coordination, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that one game is harder than the other or more difficult. One may be more mechanically demanding, though.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say, in light of that setup. So Bobby Scar, Melee player, former top Melee player at one point, right?
Sixth at Genesis.
Sixth at Genesis, yes, that's what he's known as. I'm sorry, Bobby. But like he wanted to learn Street Fighter. When I started working at Twitch, he was absolutely terrible. terrible Street Fighter player, but he knew that. He wasn't trying to be good. He's like, no, man, I just want to play this game. I love this game. Can you help me out? Or whatever.
Sure.
And obviously, I took him under his wing, and naturally, he is now one of the best players. Of course, you come to me for help. That's just what's going to happen. But then just talking to him about it, he said two things that were interesting. One, he said Street Fighter is a much easier game in terms of execution to learn. And I just know that right off the bat. I've tried to play Melee. That game, that is difficult. That is a difficult game to be good at. You know, the execution is so demanding. But Bobby said, yeah, learning Street Fighter was very, very easy to adapt to using the mechanics of the game. However, he said if learning that game made him like a way better Melee player now.
Interesting. What did he give any reasons for it, or like what he learned from Street Fighter?
He didn't realize how smart of a game Street Fighter was, as opposed to Melee. Not saying that Melee is not smart, obviously, obviously, but it's just the fact that he had to think about his opponent so much more in Street Fighter and really understanding what he was thinking. You know, like you do in Melee, but because
it was less mechanical execution to him, though.
Yeah, because you're not running all around the stage. You're you're really close up against your opponent the whole time. So it's just a constant dialogue that you're having with your opponent.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because when you play Street Fighter, you have to think about your mix-ups and your wake-ups and everything. Like, what can my opponent do?
Yeah, and then it's not what. Yeah, once you know, or once you answer to yourself, what can he do? Then the next best question is, what does he want? What does he want to do? And once you make that read, it's the best feeling in the world. Okay,
I can imagine. So now that we've decided Smash is now FGC, and we've decided that Smash is Esports, so we're a lot of breakthroughs on this show. Yeah, we're doing great. I can't wait for the tweets for this one.
Reddit's going to be so
Daniel
happy.
Lee found beaten by a mob. Angry Smash mob. Mike Ross missing. Kevin.
But what's next? So I mean, we had Smash explode onto the scene. Is the next big game a game waiting in the wings like Smash did that just doesn't have its big time to shine yet? Or is it the next game that's around the corner yet to be developed?
Can I follow with one question for you as well on that end?
Please.
Can we please get Melee HD at tournaments so we don't have to see you poor kids suffer carrying these large CRTs? I think that would be awesome. Can you talk to Nintendo and make that happen?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you've been in a foundry, like they've got like old like Disney CRTs. They raided all of the CRTs from every Goodwill in this country. Like we're gonna be running out of like CRT VHS combos soon.
Exactly. CRTs are gonna start going for like $20K on eBay. And it's all the Smash community buying it.
You know what I secretly do is that when colleges finish their school year, I walk around campus.
You're not joking, are you? You're not joking.
Beautiful.
I'm not joking.
This is serious.
I totally believe you.
Yeah, because everybody throws out their CRTs, and I'm just like, please. But real talk, I would love Melee HD. It would make everybody's lives just so much easier. 1080p graphics as opposed to the 480i/p. Integration with other games in terms of streams. There's breakdown that happens in Evo when we switch to Melee, where they have to take an additional hour to break down, set up, and then break down again when they switch to another game. So we all want it. Maybe one day it will happen.
Yeah. But I mean, to throw it back to that original question, though, so I mean, like, what's next in terms of game? Has the transformation of Smash turned another community to say to themselves, look what they did. Look what they did because they were so committed and they were so passionate about their scene. We can do that, too. Is there anyone else that's trying that?
I mean, I think whenever there's division or dissatisfaction, I think, anime fighters went through this, and everybody's always going to point out to the Melee community as, well, look at what they've done to accomplish so much with so little. So when there's like a growing scene that's kind of has their grumbling or their growing pains, I think everybody just points them to the Smash community, Melee and Wii U, and just how much internal support and how much internal drive there is to do something. If there is a barrier to something not working out, we're going to find a solution and make it work. And I think that tenacity is what's so cherished about us.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of similarities in the player base between Smash players and the speedrunners. That and also the unified love of CRTs.
All right, folks. Well, I do think that on that note, we are officially going to wrap things up. But thank you very much to the now official representatives of the FGC Esports community here, the real ambassadors for the sport. That's going to close things up for our extended roundtable, though. Big thanks to Daniel Lee and Mike Ross for coming on the show. We will catch you guys next week with more Esports Weekly.